there's a I won't go down this route because I want to ask you about how we can communicate some of this in a second because that's going to be real practical for the audience. But I'm just going to throw it out there and then I'm going to quickly shift to communication. Is it possible that humans just can't zoom far enough, out enough, often enough to see the what the predictability in chaos? And what I mean by that is, could machine learning, AI, could that take away a lot of the magic of what we see as chaos when you can get so much data that a human couldn't possibly process without cognitive biases, without opinions, and without social pressures? Could AI and machine learning look at some of this chaos and say, that isn't really chaos when you look at it in the big picture?
Well, that's really interesting. It's something that I've been looking into, the ability of AI, the uncanny ability of AI to see patterns that we don't see. And this brings me back to the dragonfly. I've been waiting for this opportunity. So the most amazing thing about a dragonfly is that it literally sees the future. So it sees a kind of data pattern that AI itself sees, so that when a dragonfly is pursuing prey, it literally does not see where the prey is at any particular moment. It sees where the prey will be. There's this brilliant sort of vector analysis that goes on in the dragonfly's ganglia and its optic nerves, which allow it to, and not allow it, it limits it only to seeing where that prey is most likely to be, with a success rate of some 96 to 98%. It's able to see not where the bug is, but where it will be. AI is capable of doing that. The problem, of course, lies in the fact that most of what we would ask AI to do in terms of finding patterns within chaotic situations aren't bugs. They're somewhat more complex than a vector analysis of a gnat or mosquito. So garbage in, garbage out applies to any kind of AI. Someone will have to have the perspective to understand how to allow that machine to learn what patterns are and how to predict them. And it's interesting. In some ways, AI is doing a brilliant job. In medicine, for example, AI is already superior to most diagnosticians. On the other hand, asking AI to predict the stock market, that's a whole different kettle of chaotic fish.
Sure. And if it ever would get to the point where it could predict the stock market would then no longer function. It'd be broken in an instant, right?
Well, that's a really interesting question because, again, I would apply the principles of Kairos to that kind of situation and think, okay, what if it does? Like, what if the stock market becomes absolutely predictable and the people who have the access to the AI basically own the stock market and everything on it? Does that necessarily mean that investments stop, or will they find a different path? Mm-hmm. And this is where you think kairotically, as the rhetoricians would say, where you think, okay, is there a gap in this somehow? Like, sure. What's missing? If somebody's looking for an investment, are they going to look for that kind of investment, or are they going to look for risk? Now, one of the most important things about learning about chaos and how it works and how it doesn't is to know the difference between risk and uncertainty. And as you know, economists talk about this all the time. And one role of government, for example, when it works well economically, is to reduce the amount of uncertainty in business investments. So, for example, if you look at outer space, the fact that we'll be mining asteroids someday, right now, that's a pretty uncertain investment, and no amount of AI will be able to predict exactly what's going to happen. Sure. Because we haven't invented the stuff to do this. Now, at some point, though, we're going to establish a point in time where now it's calculable risk, where you can use AI to determine what the percentage of risk is. I mean, if you look at doing a Monte Carlo analysis of your own investments, that's risk. You know that you don't have 100% certainty. It's more like if you invested properly, 80 to 85% uncertainty seems reasonable. There's a 15% chance you're going to lose your shirt. So that's risk, and it's a question of whether you're willing to take it. That's a decision that you can make. Uncertainty is really different, and this is where chaos comes in, where you have to be able to eliminate extraneous information and understand when to take action, because one advantage of uncertainty versus risk is very few you're going to get very little competition and very few rules setting you back.